I'm going to talk about prototyping in general rather than just discovery prototyping, which is the old method of building a small scale system which users can operate. Prototyping, and especially now using Agile and XP tools, extreme programming tools, is a great new way of, and has been in the past a great way, of really getting something to the client, getting something to the end users that they can play with. They can sit down and get a clear look and feel, even if the UI is not perfect, of what it might be like to operate that software. If you do it right, you can actually use it as a basis of actual software as well, and that's great because it saves you time later. So prototyping is not a bad way at all of getting information from people, because you sort of input that information into the system. So we're talking about requirements gathering here. So when we're gathering requirements, we kind of gather those, and instead of with those other methods, but we work with the users to actually just come up with a prototype. We sit down with them and we come up with a prototype. Like, how would you like to work it? This is can be very time consuming and highly costly, especially if it's not done right. It is it can be a very difficult thing. But with Agile and XP now, we're saying, okay, we're not going to spend a lot of time in gathering requirements, actually creating the software together. If you send a developer out there, if they have the people skills, then this can be quite a good way of approaching requirements gathering. Another way is to do things like wireframes and work with people to do wireframes and add notes to wireframes. So that's another way of doing requirements analysis or gathering. This last one is joint requirements planning, or JRP. It's an unusual method which requires a very sophisticated and well-trained person to run these meetings. It's a highly structured sort of meeting which has particular points and directions. But the thing is to get people together. What happens with interviews and questionnaires is it can be a siloed approach. So you can get people together to analyze the problems and determine requirements and find solutions together, because people sometimes are saying things that conflict with each other. What I like to do is use JRP type meetings once I've done interviews and questionnaires and so on, and then we get people in a room and we put this stuff up on the projector and say, look guys, this is a bit weird here in this documentation. Somebody said this, or a bunch of people said this, and a bunch of people said something opposite, or does something that doesn't match. You guys work it out. You're the client. So this in larger companies, this can happen where there's miscommunication in large processes, or there's just people haven't had a chance to talk to each other, and something that somebody else knows might solve a huge problem that the other person is having. So this is important to do, but this does require a specialist to go in and conduct this sort of session. Although there are alternatives on it, and there certainly is a lot of training available on these type of methods. So we've got a general idea of how we can gather requirements. And in the next topic, we're going to look at how we specifically start to document those requirements using these techniques.